Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about why I think eggs are a seasonal food. We're going to talk about why your hens might not be laying eggs for you all year round and how you can enjoy having fresh eggs from your flock from summer all the way through to winter. Let's talk about the reasons why your chickens might not be laying eggs for you all year round. The first and main reason is the level of light, how many daylight hours your flock is getting. So in the springtime, as the light starts to increase every day, that triggers peak egg laying season. Your chickens are gonna get up and moving and laying eggs for you. And as the year rolls on through, they're going to lay less eggs as the light during the day starts to decrease heading into the winter time. Another reason egg laying can be variable in your flock is the age of your hen. So young hens called pullets, when they're just starting out laying, will lay really well, and they might just keep on laying all the way through the winter depending on the time of year that they started laying. And the opposite is true. Older hens, once they're over sort of 2.5 to 3 years old, they start to lay less eggs over time, and they're even less likely to lay in the winter time than they ever were when they were younger. Heat stress is a major reason that chickens drop off their egg laying in the summertime. Chickens are really not keen on hot weather, and that does cause them quite a bit of stress, and stress in chickens is going to decrease how many eggs they're willing to lay. So there may or may not be anything you can do about that, but making sure your chickens have plenty of water and shade and cooling them down as much as possible can help them to keep laying in the hot summer months. When your chickens are molting, they are not very likely to be laying eggs for you. Molting means when they lose their feathers and regrow new feathers, and it's something they're going to do every single year for the rest of their lives. So when they're in that process, they're not going to be too keen on laying eggs. It's quite a stressful process for them. They've got to put a lot of energy into regrowing all those feathers, so they're less interested in laying eggs for you while that's happening. If you happen to have breeds of hen in your flock that like to go broody, well, they're not going to lay any eggs while they want to be broody. All broody means is that they want to sit on eggs and hatch chicks, and if you want to find out what to do with a broody hen, you can check out my video on that. But for this video, if they're broody, they're not going to be laying eggs. Now let's talk about ways that you can influence your flock to keep laying eggs for you all year round. The easiest way to do that is to have lights in your coop that you can turn on as the daylight hours start to wane at the end of autumn moving into winter, because extra light is going to keep them laying throughout the winter. I personally don't do that because I feel like my hens probably need an egg laying break. It can be good for their long-term health to have a pause from laying, but it is something that lots of people do, and it is the easiest way to keep egg production up throughout the whole year. If it's not already too late for you, you can choose breeds that do lay all the way through the winter. Not all breeds do this, so have a research look into what breeds are available in your area that do lay all the way through the winter and all year round. They do exist. I just personally don't happen to have very many of those in my flock, so I have to use some different strategies for getting eggs all the time. One strategy is to store your eggs when you have lots in the springtime or in the autumn for use later on in the year. There's lots of ways to do that. People can freeze dry them, you can freeze them, you can water glass them. Now, I don't tend to use those methods because when you use those methods, the eggs, once you go to use them, you can't use them as fresh eggs, really. You need to use them in baked products or making pancakes, things like that they're still really good for. So what I do is I just bake lots during egg abundance season, and I put those baked goods into the freezer so I can bring them out in the winter time when I don't have a lot of fresh eggs and I've got them ready to go. It just cuts out that middle step of preserving the eggs themselves. Now we're getting into the tougher strategies, and that is using early spring hatched pullets every year in your flock, because the earliest you can get a pullet who's hatched in the springtime, and remember, a pullet is just a young hen, she's going to most likely start laying before winter, and because she's in her first laying season, she's going to keep on laying all the way through the winter. So that is a strategy I use every year, so I have at least a couple of hens going to lay eggs for me throughout the winter. The most complicated strategy of all is using the timing of broody hens hatching chicks, or in some instances just letting your hen be broody even if she's not hatching, to push out her laying window. And what I mean by that is, if I let my hens hatch chicks in the autumn time, they hatch their chicks, they raise their chicks, and then they get back to egg laying just as we're going into winter, and they're going to keep going through the winter. Now that's not a strategy that everyone can use. Not everyone can hatch chicks every year, and you might not have a hen deciding to go broody precisely when you want her to, but that is one that works really well if the stars align for that to work out for your flock. In my flock, I like to use the strategy of early spring hatched pullets to make sure I have a few hens taking me through the winter time. I store eggs as baked goods during the late spring, and I try whenever I can to have broody hens hatching in the autumn time, so I'll have some of those coming on board to lay eggs through the winter. It usually works out. Occasionally I've got down to just one hen laying throughout the winter, but most of the time I get more than one laying through the winter. I hope that's given you some hints and tips to maximize the eggs that you get from your flock over the year. Thanks for watching.